Today, I'd like to introduce you to my mobile app development company. My name is Jameson Saunders, and I'd like to preview for you what exactly my mobile app development company is capable of producing, give you some ideas about the costs of app development, and just kind of show you some of my client results. And what kind of apps are we talking about here? Well, it's mostly focused around business apps. That's really the strength, the core competency of the app development business, which I own. So, not really games as much, Plants vs. Zombies, League of Legends. Instead, we focus on creating apps like Facebook, Airbnb, Instagram, just apps similar to this, sort of business or logic based apps, as opposed to kind of more like fun game based apps, especially like the more 3D graphics and things an app has. That's not really projects we like to take on, but instead we focus on quality user interfaces for businesses, social media apps, and things like that. And the mobile apps we build are actually cross-platform between iOS, Android, and even the web as well, so it'll function as a website. Here you can see an example app I built, which is a simple to-do list app, which is published on the iOS and Android stores. It is called Crit List. Stands for like critical list, or essentially you're keeping a list of all your critical tasks. And you can see here on the left it functions as a website, as well as on the right as a mobile app. And this app is published on the App Store and the Google Play Store, so you can go and search for it. It's called Crit List. Also, I have links to that down below in the description. And importantly, this app was developed just for demonstration purposes. It works quite well. I actually use it for my own to-do list on my phone every day. But it was built for the purpose of demonstrating skill and competency. So I developed it on camera in less than 2 days, and that's the purpose of this particular app. So, do you want an app developed, or perhaps do you want to work as an app developer? Well, if either of those are true for you, then keep watching the video. This is for you. I want to educate on the 3 steps that we use here at my company to build apps. So the first step is to document the requirements. And this step is really important because we want to know what we're going to build before we build it. And step number 2 is to write the actual code for the app. And then finally, step number 3 is to publish the app. So pretty straightforward process there, document the requirements, code the app, and then publish it. Now let's dive into each of these steps in a little bit more detail. So for step number 1, documenting the requirements, how we do this is we focus on building what is called the MVP, or the minimum viable product. And the reason this is so important is because we have finite resources, and especially working with a client, we don't want to exhaust their budget before we get the most important features completed. So essentially how this works is the client will produce suggestions for what they would like in the app, and then the engineer or the developer will okay them, pretty much saying, yes, we can fit this in the MVP or not, essentially, or maybe they can give some more fine-tuned feedback, like, oh, this feature might take 2 days to complete, or something like that. And so then we can kind of rank the features by priority, and then get them done so that the client doesn't run out of budget before all of the important tasks are completed. Now, the methods we use at my company for creating this documentation are, number 1, we can just use like a written document. If the client has written up a feature list, we can go through that. Typically, we'll go through this on a call, like a video call or just a regular phone call, and we'll have that call recorded so that it can act as further documentation of what the client wants, and then the engineer can go back and listen to that, and while they're designing and implementing the app and making sure they get it exactly how the client wants. Another way of documenting the requirements is by using images or sketches, maybe a PowerPoint render, or Keynote, or just slides, a PDF, physical drawings scanned into your computer. Really, for this step, we're using any means of communication necessary and sufficient to take the ideas from the client's head and put it into the developer's head, so that the developer can have a good understanding of what they want, and then the developer will then turn that into actual code that works, and thereby creating an app. And like I was saying a moment ago, we're going to be creating a minimum viable product, and this requires that we focus on a specific set of features. Like here I have a diagram showing how far these lines will travel if we have split focus, splitting it across all these different features. However, if we focus on just like one feature or a few core features, those lines will go a lot further. Essentially, like if you're splitting your focus all over the place, you're going to get close to nothing done. Whereas if you focus your efforts on just a few core features, like, oh, I need to view a list of to-do items, and I need a list of critical items, and I need to be able to cross things off my to-do list. Those are like core features in my example app earlier, the to-do list app. If we focus on those core features, they're going to be way better if we, bug test them well enough and we make sure the user interface is intuitive. So your work is going to go a lot further if we focus it on just a few key tasks. So at this point, the engineers have a pretty good idea of what the app is supposed to be, a list of features that are considered critical or MVP, and from that point, their job is to then code the app and iterate with the client, essentially getting feedback from them. After they write code, get feedback, and continue until those core features are satisfactory. Now, while the engineers are doing this, they use a particular set of technology called a tech stack in order to accomplish this. Now, the tech stack that I've chosen for my company is the Ionic framework for the front end and Firebase for the back end. And the reason I've chosen this is because it easily produces scalable cross-platform apps for iOS, Android, and the web. And what do I mean by scalable? I mean that it should work as well for one user as it does for a million users. That's what I mean by an app scales. Let me read you this little tidbit on the left here. Firebase scale globally. Powered by Google's storage infrastructure, Cloud Firestore is built to scale your business. Now you can focus on building your app instead of managing servers or worrying about consistency. Firebase is a database as a service, which is why we use it. It makes development a lot easier and it cuts down on costs by quite a bit. And by the way, if you're interested in the exact pricing structure of Firebase, I have a video I've already created on that. Here's an annotation as well as you can click the link in the description below to my Firebase pricing video. But essentially you pay a small fee and then your backend service is handled. And finally, step number 3 in the app development process is to publish the app. And like I said earlier, we use Ionic to build cross-platform apps. So that means we're going to publish a website, an iOS app, and an Android app all at once. And we can do this because we're using Ionic, which builds cross-platform apps and allow us to use a lot of what are called web plugins to build the app a lot faster using something called NPM. Now, as far as the typical estimate that I give for developing apps, an MVP will usually take around 1 to 2 months of full-time development work, which usually costs around $16,000 to $32,000, and that's US dollars. And my company bills by the hour because it's notoriously hard to give estimates for things. So this is just a rough estimate that I give, and then I just say, we bill by the hour, and then we'll provide you with the specific rate for that. If you're wanting an app developed, then I'll have a link below the video to schedule a call with me or another engineer in order to get a proper estimate for you. But usually an MVP should really only take around a month or 2 to develop. Otherwise, you probably have too many features in that MVP. And of course, these estimates are, just from me and from my company as a general rule of thumb. And these are from a company based in the United States. So it's all American workers here. Whether it be me, myself, I'm from Draper, Utah, United States, and any developers we hire will be from the United States as well. I do think if you're in the US, you should hire a US developer, just as if you're in India, you should hire an India developer, because that way you have the same language as the developers you're talking to and there's no communication issues. Because a lot of people don't realize this, but creating an app is essentially like a translation process. You're translating the idea into code. And so you have your idea in your head, and if you're talking with a developer who speaks a different language than you, then there's already like a communication barrier. But whereas if you speak English and you're taking your idea, you speak it in English to someone else that speaks native English, and then they turn that into code, which they should hopefully speak that language of code very well, then the amount of errors in translation is going to be minimal. And I think that's incredibly important, especially when you're building something as complex as an app. Anyway, didn't want to derail that too much, but finally, I'll end on the why us. Why the Jameson Saunders app development company? Well, here's my profile. I used to work on a freelancing site before I started taking clients outside of that site. And here's my profile. Like I said, I'm from Draper, Utah. My name is Jameson Saunders, and I'm a top-rated plus developer on this site, which means I've had a 100% job success rate, as well as I've worked on a lot of large projects and had success on those. So you can see down here in the bottom left, I've had over 100K earnings. And I think I've only started this around a year ago, maybe a year and a half at this point. And I've had 16 total jobs and 2,170 hours worked. And literally every single one of my reviews is a 5-star review at this point. I used to charge 80 back in the day, over a year ago now. But now I charge 100 per hour, and that's typically what my company charges for the hourly rate for app development, which is why you saw the 16 to 32K estimate. That's kind of assuming around $100 per hour rate and a month or two of full-time work by an engineer. Anyways, I'll keep going through these reviews. You can click and pause if you want to, but I was just showing you that every single one of them is a 5-star review. And I also have experience working for a globally skilled company. This is Qualtrics. I used to work for them right after I graduated college. I worked for them for around a year, helping them with their user interface and building a new admin portal, as well as I worked on the distributions team for sending emails and things like that, at least that user interface. I worked with them for around a year, and then I quit to start my own business. And finally, I'll just mention I have a degree in computer science from BYU in Provo, Utah. And anyways, if you're interested in developing your app for real, then I encourage you to schedule a call with me or another engineer below. So there will be a link in the description you can click to schedule a call with one of our engineers. Or otherwise, if you're a developer watching this and you have experience in Ionic, or even if you don't, I actually offer a program that can teach you that skill set. So if you're interested in becoming a developer and earning a high rate of pay, you must be in the United States to work for my company. And we pay typically between $60 and $100 per hour. So if you're interested in that kind of work and that kind of pay, then click to schedule an interview with me or one of our engineers as well. So with those calls to action out of the way, that's it for this video. Thanks everyone for watching, and I look forward to speaking with you on the phone here real soon. Thanks.